Hi, everyone. I'm Lila Hunt, OCM's Deputy Director of Public Health and Campaigns. Today's training will discuss rules related to the packaging and labeling of adult use cannabis products. The rules around packaging and labeling, which are also called regulations, were finalized by the Cannabis Control Board in March of this year. They're part of a larger set of rules that also govern the marketing and advertising of adult use cannabis products. Together, these rules are called the PLMA, or Packaging and Labeling and Marketing and Advertising Rules, and are comprised of parts 128 and 129. Because the regulations are final and effective, that means they are the rules which all regulated cannabis businesses in New York State must follow when packaging and labeling any adult use cannabis product. There are separate but similar rules for medical cannabis and cannabinoid hemp or CBD products. The packaging and labeling rules for adult use cannabis products require that cannabis products be packaged in ways that make sure they are not attractive to individuals under 21, and they do not make statements that are false or could mislead consumers. Additionally, the rules protect public health and safety by requiring licensees consider the environmental impact of the packaging they use. Today's training will contain multiple sections, and each section will include frequently asked questions throughout. The office has published a guidance document based on the adult use cannabis packaging and labeling and marketing and advertising rules that are now effective. We'll be referencing this document throughout this training. If you're not already familiar with this guidance, you can click the link in the description to view the guidance or scan to follow along. We recommend you review this guidance document if you're not already familiar with it, and this document may be updated from time to time as the office receives questions about packaging and labeling that are not clearly answered in the guidance document. We use the frequently asked questions throughout to update the document, send it out to licensees, and let them know of any updated changes. So this training will consist of 5 video modules, including this one, and the next video will walk you through New York's adult use cannabis product packaging rules. This video will describe various packaging components and the office's standards for each. The 3rd and 4th video will both cover New York's adult use cannabis product labeling rules. One video will describe the minimum standards for adult use cannabis labeling, and the other video will describe the type of content that is prohibited or not allowed on an adult use cannabis products label. Finally, the 5th video will outline the sustainability requirements set out for New York's adult use cannabis products. This section also outlines important data that you must track and report to the office if you package cannabis products. Each module will reference a specific portion of the guidance document, and you're free to skip around the trainings as much as you please. This training is intended only for licensees that package and label adult use cannabis products. In order to package and label adult use cannabis products, you must be licensed to do so. Generally, a processor license will be required to do this, but other license types like the adult use conditional cultivator license or the micro business license may also allow a business to package and label cannabis products in certain situations. Before you begin to package and label cannabis products, you should be sure that your license allows you to both package and label. So let's talk about why we're here today. As we said, this training is about packaging and labeling. And when we talk about packaging, what we are referring to is the physical container or containers in which every cannabis product is placed. Your product's packaging can have, but is not required to have, multiple parts or components. For example, a brand that is packaging flour could choose to place that flour within a child-resistant glass jar and then place that jar within a branded cardboard sleeve. The only packaging you are required to use is what we call a retail package. And that retail package must be child-resistant, and we'll talk about packaging a bit more in the next video in this training series. Some of New York's adult use cannabis product packaging apply to all packaging components, but other rules only apply to certain components or segments. Labeling refers to all of the content on the package. This includes any images, words, colors, symbols, and any other content that is on the packaging. There are 2 videos regarding labeling later in this training, and the first will discuss the labeling minimum standards, which is things you need to include. And the second will discuss the content that cannot be included on product labels, also called prohibited content. Because packaging is allowed to have multiple components, most of New York's adult use cannabis labeling rules will apply to the product's outermost layer, which is the exterior of the package. So let's talk about protecting public health and safety. Packaging and labeling is an important part of doing so. The packaging and labeling rules we'll be discussing today have a clear purpose in strengthening New York's adult use cannabis market and protecting the health and safety of the public, which also includes protecting the environment. You cannot package or label cannabis products in a way that is false or misleading, and you cannot package or label products in a way that results in them being attractive to individuals under 21, the legal age to purchase cannabis in New York State. The packaging and labeling regulations create consistency between adult use cannabis products and build a consumer expectation that labeling can be trusted. This means consumers will feel more confident that your products are safe and reputable when comparing them to products that are not regulated by the office. Although they may at times seem inconvenient, the requirements discussed in this training are intended to serve this purpose of protecting public health and safety. You should keep this in mind as you're packaging and labeling your products. So let's talk about packaging and labeling highlights. We're going to walk through all of the specifics and later components of this training, but here are some top lines. Cannabis product packaging and labeling must, first and foremost, fully enclose the product. They must be child resistant and tamper evident, and they cannot be attractive to individuals under 21. And the regulations have spelled out in great detail what that means and what that looks like. It also must include the universal symbol and all required warnings. The universal symbol cannot serve as the tamper evident seal on a package, because once the package is opened, consumers would no longer be able to read the universal symbol, which defeats the purpose. And the packaging and labeling must include nutritional information like you'd see on other products like food, as well as the potency, so consumers know exactly what it is that they're getting. Now, when you're interfacing with the office, once you've finished this training and watched each video, you might still have questions. Licensees should not hesitate to contact the office's compliance staff with questions regarding compliance and FAQs about packaging, labeling, marketing, and advertising. You should expect your product's packaging and labeling will be assessed by the office, and this may occur during inspections at your processing facility, while inspecting retail dispensaries at which your product is sold, and through other means. In the event your product's packaging and labeling requires corrective action, it will be your obligation as the licensee who packaged and labeled the product to remedy this noncompliance. Fixing noncompliance, called corrective action, is the obligation of the processor in the case of packaging and labeling, even if the product has already been distributed to retail dispensaries. Fixing packaging and labeling can be costly, and you should take care to carefully understand the packaging and labeling rules so you don't have to fix your products. So that concludes the introduction to this training. This video is part of a multi-series training regarding the packaging and labeling of adult use cannabis products, and the next video will cover adult use cannabis product packaging rules. Please remember the rules in this video apply only to adult use cannabis products. Medical cannabis and cannabinoid hemp or CBD products have different packaging and labeling rules. Thank you so much for tuning in.